All right. So, chapter 25. My heart was heavy when I saw Sam run into camp early the next morning. I hated having to disappoint him, but I knew I had to. There's no way I would let Mr. Crepsley turn Sam into a half vampire. I thought about it a lot during the night, and the frightening thing was, I believe Sam would agree to become a half vampire if I gave him the option. Smart as he was, I don't think he'd stop to consider the loneliness and awfulness of being a vampire. He rushed over to me when he saw me, too excited to notice my new clothes and haircut. Did you ask him, did you? His face was bright, filled with hope. Yes, I said, smiling sadly, and? I shook my head. Sorry, Sam, he said no. Sam's face fell about 1,000 miles. Why? He shouted. You're too young, I said. You're not much older, he snapped. But I don't have parents, I lied. I didn't have a home when I joined the Cirque. I don't care about my parents, he said, with a sniff. That's not true, I said. You'd miss them. I could go home for holidays. It wouldn't work. You're not cut out for the life in the Cirque du Freak. Maybe later, when you're older. I don't care about later, he yelled. I want to join now. I've worked hard. I've proved myself. I kept quiet when you were lying to RV about the Wolfman yesterday. Did you tell that to Mr. Tall? I told him everything, I said. I don't believe you, Sam said. I don't think you spoke to him at all. I want to see him myself. I shrugged and pointed towards Mr. Tall's van. That's where you'll find him, I said. Sam ran off in a huff, but slowed after a few steps, then came to a halt. He kicked the ground miserably, then returned and sat down next to me. It's not fair, he grumbled. I could see tears trickling down his cheeks. I made up my mind to join. It was going to be great. I had it all planned. There'll be other chances, I said. When, he asked. I've never heard of a freak show playing around here before. When will I run into one again? I didn't answer. You wouldn't have liked it anyway, I said. It's not as much as fun as you think. Imagine what it's like in the middle of winter, when you have to get up at 5 in the morning and shower in ice-cold water and work outside in the blizzards. That doesn't bother me, Sam insisted. Then his tears stopped, and he got a crafty look in his eyes. Maybe I'll come along anyway, he said. Maybe I'll sneak into one of the vans and stow away with you. Mrs. Tall would have to take me then. You can't do that, I snapped. No way. I will if I want, he grinned. You can't stop me. Yes, I can, I growled. How? He sneered. I took a deep breath. The time had come to scare Sam Grest away forever. I couldn't tell him the truth about me, but I could invent a story almost as horrifying. One guarantee to send him running. I never told you what happened to my parents, did I, Sam? Or how I came to join the freak show? I kept my voice low and steady. No, Sam said quietly. I've wondered a lot, but I didn't want to ask. I killed them, Sam, I said. What? His face went white. I go crazy sometimes, like the Wolfman. Nobody knows when it's going to happen or why. I was in a hospital when I was younger, but I seem to be getting better. My parents brought me home for Christmas. After dinner, while I was in a fight with Dad, I flipped out. I tore him to pieces. Mom tried to drag me off, but I killed her too. My little sister ran for help, but I caught her. I ripped her apart the same way I ripped my mom and dad. Then, after I'd killed them, I locked eyes with Sam. It had to be a good act to make it believe I ate them. He stared at me, stunned. That's not true, he whispered. It can't be. I killed and ate them, then ran away. I lied. I was discovered by Mr. Tall, who agreed to hide me. They have a special cage built to keep me in when I go crazy. The problem is nobody knows when it's going to happen. That's why most people avoid me. Efra's okay, because he's strong. So are some of the other performers. But ordinary humans, I could rip them apart in a second. You're lying, Sam said. I picked up a large stick lying nearby, turned it around in my hands, then put it in my mouth and bit through it like a big carrot. I'd chew your bones and spit you out as a gristle, I told Sam. I'd cut my lips on the stick in blood and make me look ferocious. You wouldn't be able to stop me. You'd be sleeping in a tent if you joined the show, and would be the one I'd go for first. You can't join the Cirque du Freak, I said. I wish you could. I'd love to have a friend, but it's not possible. I'd end up killing you if you joined. Sam tried responding, but couldn't get his mouth to work. He believed my big lie. He'd seen enough of the show to know that things like that could happen here. Go away, Sam, I said sadly. Go away and don't ever come back. It's safer that way. It's better for the both of us. Darren, He shook his head uncertainly. Go, I roared. I pounded the ground with my hands. I bared my teeth and growled. I was able to make my voice much deeper than a human's, so it sounded like a wild animal. Sam screamed, scrambled to his feet, and sprinted for the woods, never once looking back. I watched him go, heavy-hearted. Certain my ploy had worked. He'd never be back. I wouldn't see him again. Our paths had separated, and we would never meet again. If I'd known how wrong I was, if I had any idea the awful night that lay ahead, I'd have run after him and never returned to that disgusting circus of blood, that revolting circus of death. Chapter 26. I was moping around when one of the little people tapped me on the back. It was one with the limp. "What do you want?" I asked. The tiny man, if it was a man, in the blue hooded robe, rubbed his stomach with his hands. This was the sign that he and his brothers were hungry. "You just had breakfast," I said. He rubbed his stomach again. "It's too early for lunch." He rubbed his stomach again. I knew that this would go on for hours if I let it. He would patiently follow me around, rubbing his stomach, until I agreed to go hunt for food for him. "All right," I snapped. "I'll see what I can find. But I'm on my own today. So I don't come back with a full bag. Tough." He rubbed his stomach again. I spit on the ground and took off. I shouldn't have gone hunting. I was really weak. I could still run faster than a human, and I was stronger than most kids my age, but I wasn't super fit or extra strong anymore. Mr. Crepsey had said I'd be dead within a week if I didn't drink human blood, and I knew he'd spoken the truth. I could feel myself wasting away. A few more days and I wouldn't be able to pull myself out of bed. I tried catching a rabbit, but wasn't fast enough. I worked up a sweat, chasing it, and had to sit down for a few minutes. Next, I went looking for roadkill, but couldn't find any dead animals. Finally, because I was tired and half afraid of what would happen if I returned to camp empty-handed, the little people might decide to eat me. I headed for a field full of sheep. They were grazing peacefully when I arrived. There used to be humans and barely lifted their heads when I entered the field and walked among them. I was looking for an old sheep, or one that looked sick. That way I wouldn't have to feel so lousy about killing it. I finally found one with skinny, trembling legs and dazed expression, and decided she'd do. She looked as though she didn't have long to live anyway. If I'd had my full powers, I would have snapped her neck, and she would have been dead in an instant without any pain. But I was weak and clumsy, and didn't twist hard enough the first time. The sheep began to bleat with agony. She tried running away, but her legs wouldn't carry her. She fell to the ground where she lay, bleeding miserably. I tried breaking her neck again, but couldn't. In the end, I grabbed a stone and finished the job. It was a messy, horrible way to kill an animal, and I felt ashamed of myself as I'd grabbed its back legs and hauled it away from the flock. I'd almost reached the fence before I realized somebody was sitting on top of it, waiting for me. I dropped the sheep and looked up, expecting an angry farmer. But it wasn't a farmer. It was RV, and he was mad as hell. "How could you?" he shouted. "How could you kill a poor, innocent animal so cruelly?" "I tried killing her quickly," I said. "I tried snapping her neck, but I couldn't. I was going to leave her, but I couldn't do it. But she was in pain. I thought it was better to finish her off than leave her to suffer." "That's real big of you, man," he said sarcastically. "Do you think you'll get the Nobel Peace Prize for that?" "Come on, RV," I said. "Don't be angry. She was sick. The farmer would have killed her anyway. Even if she'd lived, she would have been sent to a butcher in the end." "That don't make it right," he said angrily. "Just because other people are nasty, it don't mean you should be nasty too." "Killing animals isn't nasty," I said. "Not when it's for food." "What's wrong with vegetables?" he asked. "We don't need to eat meat, man. We don't need to kill." "Some people need meat," I disagreed. "Some can't live without it." "Then they should be left to die," RV roared. "That sheep never did any harm to anyone. As far as I'm concerned, killing her is worse than killing a human. You're a murderer, Darren Shawn." I shook my head sadly. There's no point arguing with somebody this stubborn. "Look, RV," I said. "I don't enjoy killing. I'd be psyched if every person in this world was a vegetarian. But they're not. People eat meat, and that's a fact of life. I'm only doing what I have to." "Well, we'll see what the police has to say about it," RV said. "The police?" I frowned. "What do they have to do with it? You've killed somebody else's sheep." He laughed cruelly. "Do you think they'll let you get away with that? They won't arrest you for murdering rabbits and foxes, but they'll charge you for killing a sheep. Of the police and health inspectors come down on you like a ton of bricks," he grinned. "You won't," I gasped. "You don't like the police. You're always fighting against them." "When I have to," he agreed. "But when I can get them on my side," he laughed again, "they'll arrest you first, then turn your camp upside down. I've been studying the going-ons here. I've seen the way you treat that poor hairy man." "The wolf man? Yeah, you keep him locked away like an animal." "He is an animal," I said. "No," RV disagreed. "You are the animal, man." "RV, listen," I said. "We don't have to be enemies. Come back to camp with me. Talk to Mr. Tall and the others. See how we live. Get to know and understand us. There's no need to—" "Save it," he snapped. "I'm getting the police. Nothing you can say will stop me." I took a deep breath. I liked RV, but I knew I wouldn't allow him to destroy the Cirque du Freak. "All right, then," I said. "If nothing can stop you, maybe you'll respond to something I do." Summoning all my remaining strength, I threw the dead body of the sheep at RV. I struck him in the chest and knocked him flying from the fence. He yelled with surprise, then with pain as he landed heavily on the ground. I leaped over the fence and was on him before he could move. "How did you do that, man?" he whispered. "Never mind," I snapped. "Kids can't throw a sheep," he said. "How did—" "Shut up," I shouted, and I slapped his bearded face. He stared up at me in shock. "Listen, Reggie Veggie," I growled, using the name he hated, "and listen good. You won't go to the police or the health inspectors, because if you do, the sheep won't be the only dead body I drag back to the Cirque du Freak again. What are you? He asked, his voice trembling and his eyes were filled with terror. On the end of you, if you screw with me, I swore. I dug my fingernails into the soil at either end of his face and squeezed his head between my hands just to let him know how strong I was. Get out of here, Reggie, I said. Go find your friends and note. Stick to protesting against new roads and bridges. You're in over your head here. Me and my friends in the Cirque are freaks, and freaks don't obey the same laws as other people. Understand? You're crazy, he whimpered. Yes, I said, but not as crazy as you'll be if you stay and interfere. I stood and draped the sheep over my shoulders. Going to the police would be useless anyway, I said. By the time they reach the camp, the sheep will be long gone, bones and all. You can do what you like, RV. Stay or go. Report me to the police or keep your mouth shut. It's up to you. All you have to say is this. To me and my kind, you're no different from the sheep. I gave it a shake. We'd like no more of killing you than we would any dumb animal in the fields. You're a monster, RV yelled. Yeah, I agreed. But I'm only a baby monster. You can see what some of the others are like. I smiled nastily at him, hating myself for acting so mean, but knowing this is the way it had to be. So long, Reggie Veggie, I said sarcastically and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could hear the chattering of his terrified teeth practically all the way back to camp. Chapter 27. This time I went straight to Mr. Tall and told him about RV. He listened carefully and said, You handled him well. I did what I had to, I replied. I'm not proud of it. I don't like bullying or scaring people, but there's no other way. Actually, you should have killed him, Mr. Tall said. That way he could do us no harm whatsoever. I'm not a murderer, I told him. I know, he sighed. Nor am I. It's a pity one of the little people wasn't with you. They'd have chopped his head off without a second's hesitation. What do you think we should do? I asked. I don't think he could cause many problems, Mr. Tall said. He'll probably be too scared to go to the police right away. Even if he does, there's no evidence against you. It would be an unwanted complication, but we've had plenty of dealings with officers of the law in the past. We could cope. The health authorities worry me more. We could hit the road and lose them, but people in the health department tend to trail you around like hound dogs once they've got you sent. We'll leave tomorrow, he decided. There's a show scheduled for tonight, and I hate canceling on short notice. Dawn is the earliest any health inspector could be here, so we'll make sure we're gone before then. You're not angry with me, I asked. No, he said. This isn't the first time we've chased with the public. You're not to blame. I helped Mr. Tall spread the word of our departure. Everybody took it in stride. Most seemed happy to get this much notice. A lot of times they had to move on without an only hour warning. It was another busy day for me. As well as preparing for the show, I had to help people get ready for leaving. I offered to help Tresca pack her stuff, but her tent was already bare when I got there. She only winked when I asked how she packed so quickly. When Mr. Crepsley awoke, I told him about our plan to leave. He didn't seem surprised. We've been here long enough, he said. I asked to be left out of that night's show because I wasn't feeling very well. I'll get to bed early, I said, and get a good night's sleep. It will not do any good, Mr. Crepsley warned. There's one thing that will make you feel better, and you know what it is. Night rolled on, and soon it was time for the show to begin. There was another big crowd. The roads were blocked with cars in both directions. Everybody in the circuit was busy, either preparing to go on stage or getting people seated or selling stuff. The only two who seemed to have noticed nothing to do were me and Evra, who wasn't performing because of his sick snake. He'd left her for a few minutes to watch the start of the show. We stood on one side of the stage as Mr. Tall got the ball rolling and introduced the Wolfman. We stuck around until the first break, then walked outside and studied the stars. I'll miss this place when we go, Ever said. I like the country. You can't see stars as well in the city. I didn't know you were interested in astronomy, I said. I'm not, he replied, but I like looking up at the stars. I got dizzy after a while and had to sit down. You're not feeling too good, are you? Ever asked. I smiled weakly. I've been better. Still not drinking human blood? I shook my head. He sat beside me. You never told me exactly why you won't drink it, he said. It can't be so different than animal blood, can it? I don't know, I said, and I don't want to find out. I paused. I'm afraid that if I drink human blood, I'll be evil. Mr. Crepsley says vampires aren't evil, but I think they are. I think anyone who looks at humans as if they're animals must be evil. But if it keeps you alive, Ever said. That's how it would start, I said. I tell myself if I was going to keep going, I'd swear I'd never drink more than I needed. What if I couldn't stop myself? I'll need more as I grow older. What if I couldn't control my thirst? What if I killed someone? I don't think you could, Ever said. You're not evil, Darren. I don't think a good person could do evil things. As long as you treat human blood like medicine, you'll be all right. Maybe, I said, although I didn't believe it. Anyway, I'm okay for now. I don't have to make a final decision for a couple more days. Would you really let yourself die rather than drink? Ever said. I don't know, I answered honestly. I'd miss you if you died, Ever said sadly. Well, I said uncomfortably, maybe it won't come to that. Maybe there's some other way I could survive. A way that Mr. Crepsley won't have to tell me about until he has no other choice. Eva grunted. He knew as well as I did that there was no other way. I'm going to check on my python, he said. Do what you want. Come sit with us for a while? ? No, I said. I'd rather get some sleep. We had to get up early, and I'm really tired. We said goodnight. I didn't head straight for Mr. Cupsey's van, but wandered through the campsite, thinking about my conversation with Evra, wondering what I would do if I felt like to die. I died once before and been buried, but that wasn't the same thing. If I died for real, I'd be dead for good. Life would be over, my body would decay, and then I glanced up at the stars. What was that where I was heading? To the other side of the universe? Vampire paradise? Would they remove the part where he dies and becomes a vampire from the book? It was a weird time. When I was living at home, I'd hardly ever thought about death. It was something that only happened to old people. Now here I was, almost face to face with it. Did I skip that part? If only somebody else could decide for me, I should be worrying about school and making the soccer team, not about whether I should drink human blood or let myself die. It wasn't fair. I was too young. I shouldn't have to. I saw a shadow pass in the front of the nearby tent, but didn't pay too much attention. It wasn't until I heard a sharp snapping sound that I wondered who it might be. Nobody should have been out there. Everyone involved with the show was in a big tent. Was it somebody from the audience? I decided to investigate. I headed in the direction from the shadow had taken. It was a dark night, and after a few turns I couldn't figure out which way the person had gone. I was on the verge of abandoning the search when I heard another sharp snapping sound, closer this time. I looked around and knew immediately where the sound was supposed to come from, the wolfman's cage. Taking a deep breath, ready to steady my nerves, I ran as fast as I could to check it out. Alright, I'm done.